65 New York police officers have been found guilty of misconduct during Black Lives Matter protests. 65. I want you to keep that number in your head, okay? According to NBC4 New York, 65 members of the New York City Police Department are set to face misconduct charges due to alleged actions taken during last summer's BLM protests. I can't mention all of their names. Usually I would put their names up, put their pictures up. It's just too damn many. But I will show you this. Here's one graphic of their names. Let's keep it scrolling. Let's keep it going. We got more. All right. So you got their names. It's a lot of them. The majority of the issue or the claim against them, abuse of authority. So I'm going to read to you their charges. Okay, and they have been already found guilty of this stuff. 65. Abuse of authority, force, abuse of authority, force, abuse of authority, unlawful statement, untruthful statement, abuse of authority. And the list goes on and on. And the board that did the investigation, they basically admitted this really isn't all of them, because we had relevant complaints, viable complaints from citizens who could not remember the name or badge number of the police officer, but they believed the interaction did in fact happen, okay? So let me give you some details to this. The Civilian Complaint Review Board received hundreds of complaints amid violent protests across the city following the killing of George Floyd. On Monday, the board released the findings from its initial investigations and recommended charges for 65 NYPD members. That's according to NBC4 New York. Who carried out the violence? The police did. Isn't that something? Literally, at a protest against police misconduct, the police officers are the ones engaging in police misconduct still. You think these guys are learning a lesson? You think they would try to be at least on their best behavior during a damn protest about police brutality? No, looks like to me they even ramped it up. 37 of those officers were expected to face an administrative trial once each officer is served their charges by the department. The board said it found guilty officers could lose out on vacation days or face suspension and termination. Per the recommendation, the remaining 28 officers should lose vacation days or participate in mandated training. Oh, that's gonna do it. The board estimates some 34% of the complaints could not be investigated due to an inability to identify the accused members due to officers covering their names and shields, using body-worn cameras improperly, and failing to complete accurate paperwork. Literally, they engaged in a conspiracy. These police officers engaged in a conspiracy to cover up who they are while engaging in unlawful practices. Isn't that something? They are still employed. There is no discipline process for them because they can't figure out exactly who they are, according to the review board. The more than 6 officers identified by the board face charges of abuse of authority, use of force, making untruthful statements and offensive language. Despite issues identifying every officer listed in the 313 complaints earmarked, the board has closed 210 investigations while the other 103 remain pending, which means I may be following back up with you about the 103, all right? The NYPD said in the statement they assisted with the board's investigation for the last 14 months, and any discipline that comes will be made public. We will update you on that. Patrick Lynch is the head of the Police Benevolent Association, also weighed in, calling the whole thing a political tool used to scapegoat officers. No accountability. Let's put up his picture. That's Mr. Lynch. All right. Adrienne, that's a whole lot of cops.
That's a whole lot.
Yeah, not a lot of penalty though.
No, not at all. And the thing is, we have to bear in mind how often police are accused of misconduct and how often they're not properly investigated and there is no follow-up. We know that Derek Chauvin, who murdered George Floyd, he had received 17 police misconduct complaints before that murder, and only one of them resulted in any kind of reprimand, which was basically just 2 letters in his file. Like, come on, what are we doing here? If we're not regulating those who are supposed to be regulating society, then all they're gonna do is run amok, which we saw during the protests, covering of badge numbers, engaging in excessive force. And all they did is cross their fingers and hope, hey, maybe they're not gonna get my badge number or my name, and thus I won't be held accountable.
Yeah, it's so sad that individuals we pay tax dollars to, they engage in conspiracy, they engage in criminal cover-up, they engage in criminal misconduct. And we are still debating on if they should have a job. Remember, with all of these complaints and the investigations to go with it, they're losing vacation time. They may get a bump down in rank, possibly. No real issue, no real consequence.